We're live on YouTube, folks. How's everybody going? How's everybody doing? It's Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. Yep. There's a south due northwest, southwest wind coming in, longitude 35.63.102.9.
I didn't know you were a meteorologist.
Yeah.
What's that called? Jack of all trades.
Yeah. There he is, Tony.
So when did you start doing all this? Did you say like a couple years ago? Or
Yeah, about 4.5 years ago.
4.5 years ago?
Welcome, folks. Welcome to another episode of Sober Talk with Brother Brandon, the Raging Cajun. It's the weekend, baby. And we're live here in Pierce, South Dakota at the Recovery Warrior Gathering of the Nation's first annual event and fashion show. Man, it's been great so far. They have some great speakers. I want to give a special shout out to Tide for Second Sober Living, New Freedom Center, PRC, all the sponsors of Sober Talk. But I'm sitting here with a new friend of mine,
Yeah.
my man Greg Z. What's happening, Greg Z?
Not much. Just up for the gathering.
Yeah, you enjoying it so far? Well, that's beautiful. Where you come from?
From Wagner, South Dakota.
Wagner, South, the
Yeah.
Yankton Sioux.
Yankton Sioux Reds, yes. From
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So how long have you been sober and clean, brother?
I've been sober and clean for like nearly 3 years now.
3 years. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. Well, on behalf of Sober Talk and J Double, I want to bless you with a bottle of this original spice
All
milk.
right, thank you.
That's for you.
All
You
right.
can take that back to Wagner
All
to
right,
the
yeah,
Yankton Sioux
I'm gonna
Reservation.
use it right when I get home.
um, so did you grow up there? You lived there your whole life?
Yeah, I lived around the
And how was it growing up in the Yankton Sioux?
Reds. It was pretty normal, I guess. I mean, for a reservation life.
You come from a big family?
Yeah, I come from a pretty big
A lot
family.
of brothers and
Yep.
sisters? And how old were you when you first remember ever trying drugs and alcohol?
Probably about in the third grade, maybe fourth grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did it go about? Like someone just give it to you?
Yeah, my older brother, we lived on the Rosebud Res at that time. We lived in a
In Rosebud?
yeah, or an Oak Creek, this town called Oak Creek, but we lived in like an old cabin with no running water, electricity, and
Yeah.
yeah, we stayed there for the summer. But that was the first time I ever
Tried alcohol.
no weed,
Weed.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you started drinking and
I started drinking when I was probably about 13, maybe.
okay.
But at that time, like weed, that was like, I mean, it wasn't really frowned upon.
Right. It was normal.
It was normal. Like I heard you talk earlier about your grandfather. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
well, my parents didn't drink. I heard that my friends and the environment, it was pretty
Right.
normal.
Right. And so did you go to school?
Yeah,
Did you graduate?
yeah. I graduated
What year?
in '88.
88. I was 6.
I know.
The class of 88.
Yeah,
What school was it?
I went to Marty Indian School
Okay.
like the majority of my life, but then I ended up graduating from Flandre Indian School. I just
Okay.
went there I dropped out when I was in Marty, and then I kind of got into a little jam or whatever. And,
Yeah.
uh, I went back to school after that, got my diploma.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long did it take before you started getting in trouble from drinking and drugging?
From drinking and drugging, I never really got into like trouble, but I mean, I just, I I did a lot of drugs. I mean, a lot of meth.
Right.
Yeah.
How old were you think when you started using meth?
The first time I tried meth, I was probably 18 in Kansas City. But I lived in Kansas City for, a while with my then girlfriend or whatever.
Right. How was
But
it?
I don't know, it really did. I mean, I just, I did a couple lines with a couple of her friends, but I mean, it didn't
Yeah, like take
like
over your
take me,
life.
huh? It didn't like
Yeah.
take me like, it did
Yeah.
after, a couple of years afterwards.
Yep. When it did take you, how did your life turn from that point?
From that point, I mean, it was we were smoking crack at first. I mean, but there wasn't that many people like on my res that were
Doing drugs?
doing drugs. I mean, there was like a crew, but it wasn't like how it is now.
Right.
It was just, but we start, I smoked crack with my friends or a couple friends or whatever, and then that's when tried meth after that,
Right.
and it took,
Right.
it,
What's some of the darkest times you think of your meth career, or your drug using career that you can remember before you got sober?
before I got sober, probably I was listening to my son. He was talking to my mother. I got 11 kids,
Okay.
but one of my
He has some good genes, huh?
yeah, yeah. But he was talking to my mother at the time, and I was still like in it, and he mentioned to her that he couldn't remember his parents ever not being high on dope.
Mm.
So that kind of
It
it,
hits you,
it
huh?
kind of hit me, yeah. But I still like you know I still used or whatever. But I mean, people say functioning. I don't know if it's really functioning, but but I've I've been able to quit, from time to time,
Right.
because I was on tribal council for 3 terms, so that just goes to show you that you could be
So you was a tribal
yes,
councilor
I
in,
was
in Yankton.
I'm the Yankton res, but that just goes to show that no matter who you are, that it
Yeah.
can hit you and
Yeah.
take you or whatever,
Right.
and that's just that's how and he
And so when you heard one of your children
what's yeah
tell you that,
tell you that it did it struck me, but at that time I like you talked about, like helping people. That's what I always made sure that no matter what, I would try to,
right,
try to, help people no matter what condition I was in. But I kind of transformed my garage at my house into like this makeshift homeless shelter to help people out or whatever.
yeah,
And,
that was after you got sober or
no,
during
this was during my
during your
kind
addiction?
of because I would, I'd stop and
Yeah,
but I thought I was, it was going good. My nephew was also staying at my house at the time, but he was like like he in the morning he'd like get all right, time to get up, just
yeah,
like clean up your mess, and then they would leave.
right,
But in the end, it started turning into like just like a place to drink and
right,
whatever. Because people would come there and hey, we could go to the garage or
yeah.
whatever, and
It got
it
worse.
got worse. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
You ever had any health problems when you was drinking and drugging?
no, I've always been pretty. You got 11 kids, you got to kind of stick. But that's one thing I could say is that I always had my kids with me, no
Mm.
matter
Yep.
no matter how long,
But they had to
but
witness
they
that.
had to witness it. The older ones more than the younger ones, and I think it did kind of, well,
Affect them.
it affected the older ones more because they still got, like these feelings, like it
Yeah.
comes out once in a while, like you were there, and
Yeah.
like that kind of
Do you
like
do you remember your first day of sobriety?
what's that?
Like when you started your first day of being sober
Sober.
to
Well,
where you are right now?
well, what kind of really snapped me out of it was I was in my garage and everybody in there was from the effects of drugs. They were like schizophrenic or
Yeah.
whatever you would
It wasn't a pretty sight.
no, it wasn't a I had my relative was like doing laps and she was just like saying things that like a professor almost was like, holy, how did she know this stuff,
Right.
kind of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then my other friend was sitting there and he he had a rosary and he was like praying like in Latin,
Yeah.
but he's a native guy.
Yeah. You're like, how does he know
Yeah,
these
he's
language?
like, priest Dior, he's going there praying and writing. And then this other person was in a corner and she just had her hands up on her ears like this, and she was just like
Yeah.
like like losing it.
Right.
And then another guy was in a corner. This is all my garage, and he's standing up on some pallets, and he's just like, oh, like watching everything. And then me, I'm just like, at that moment, I just thought, this is it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm over the edge. I'm just straight up, like
Right.
insane or
Mhm.
whatever. But my son came walking in next,
Right.
and he's like like dad, hey dad, but you know how that is where
Right.
you can see their mouth moving
You
and
can't
you
comprehend what
can't
they're saying.
comprehend what they're saying because I was just like,
Like,
I'm
what's
just,
going on?
yeah, I'm just going I'm like
Yeah.
nuts now, and like I was almost like I accepted it, but then he goes, Dad, what the fuck are you, like that, and then that right then when he said that, it's like hit me like boom, and
Mm,
then like snapped, and then I went,
mm,
whoa,
mm.
I looked around and I thought, holy,
Right.
I almost went over, the
Yeah.
edge, and then after that, I just like
Stop.
this has to stop, and that was, that's what really
And
like
did you go to treatment, or
no,
did you
no,
just
I just stopped.
right? Did you start going to like meetings and stuff?
Well, I started Leon.
Yep.
See, me and Leon go way back. We went to school in Flanders together. We
Yep.
kind of,
So y'all been knowing each other for
yeah,
years.
for years. Yeah, we ran into the same circles that we
Yep.
were using, and
Yep.
and like we've seen it all. Death and mayhem and whatever. But
Mhm.
but we started. He was holding meetings, and that's when they agree, so come over to you. So I thought, all right, so I start going, and it was just me, him, and my other relatives. There was only like three of us for
Mhm.
every
Yep.
Tuesdays or whatever we was having them, and
Yep. So y'all started it.
yeah, I started it. But this one time, I just felt so good.
Mhm.
Like I left the meeting,
Mhm.
and I felt that, whoa,
Mhm.
it's happening. I feel good. I did. I
Right.
felt like this is it,
Right. It
And
was it.
but right when I get to the corner to where my house is, what a car pulls up. Hey, what's up?
Mm.
Hey, hey, kid,
Right.
test this out. And they throw me, rock, and I'm going like, fuck, should
Right.
am I gonna, whatever? And what do?
Right.
I go to my house, I go to my basement, and I
Right.
just,
You did it.
I did it, yeah. And
Yeah.
then that started the process again. And but because I would binge, and the last binge I went on, that's when when my boy came or whatever, and
Mhm.
I knew then that that shit. This is it. I can't do this no more.
I gotta get my life
I got to
together.
get my life together. And I was talking to my other relative, and shit. We're like in our 50s now, and we're still talking about like dope. Like what are we doing?
Right. We're
This is
too old for
we're too
this.
old. Yeah, this is over half our lives, and we're still talking about
Right.
hey, like that. I'm like, what are we gonna do? I just felt it had to end.
Right.
And it,
And so how long you been sober and clean now?
like 3 years now.
3 years.
Yeah,
Congratulations, brother.
but I got it's it's been a it's been a rough time because my son, he started, he got into a jab, but he started doing dope in prison, and he got out, and he was drinking though, and he quit drinking because he would get crazy.
Right.
He would come at me, that's what the green boy. But I've had, but now he started doing that. Well, and this last couple months, it's like I've been on it because I've had to deal with him,
Mm-hmm.
because but he like,
Right.
like on it, like crazy.
Right.
And, it's hard. It's hard, because, you got to decide how we going to handle this, and I'm like, I could sleep for a month as long as he was up because I was always, scared that he was going to
Right.
like do something violent, or and he had my whole house like that.
Right.
But his sister ended up having to call the cops, and it was a relief. You know,
Mhm. Yep. So now you're dealing with it on
yeah.
the other end.
On the
They
other
used
end,
to have to deal with you, and now
yeah,
you got to deal
yeah.
with them.
So that he went to jail for like a couple weeks, and then his grandmother gets him out. Well, I was warning her. I was like, you probably don't want to get him out right now.
Right.
Try to explain to her how long. When you're on one that long, for whatever 2 months, I said it takes time for it
Yeah. For your
for
body
your
and your
body,
brain.
your mind to,
Yep.
but he, you know how to talk, you know how to manipulate it, you know how to,
Yeah.
but he couldn't get it. But you don't know what I'm talking. I was like, no, I know what you're talking about,
Right.
but he just, but she ended up getting him out and shit, just like shit. the next day he was
Right.
already there again, and it's like, but I had to come to the decision then, and then I ended up having to call the cops on myself,
Yeah.
and so he's in jail again, but I'm just hoping that, I don't know, like he could come to terms, or if,
Yep.
if they could,
Does he have any kids?
yeah, he's got kids too.
Maybe it'll take him see his kid talking about him like he did they did you.
His kids are younger, and he hasn't. But see, that's the thing. He hasn't been around them lately because of his.
Right.
But I just hope, But the problem, where I'm at, there isn't no drug courts or anything like that.
Hmm.
So I mean, you don't push for treatment, or it's just like they get,
they don't have that many resources to
yeah,
help him.
yeah. So I mean, there's there's spot like places in Nebraska. I got family in Nebraska where they're willing to take you. They got this mission that helps you, but it's hard to get people to, you know, my sister would talk to them about it. They go, yeah, I want to go, but when the time comes,
Right.
they just don't, you know.
Right.
But my res, it's just getting bad. I mean, it's getting worse and worse, and it's just some days it's like a open air insane asylum, really.
Right.
You know, I mean, you see those stuff like Skid Row and Kensington and like that.
Yeah.
It's almost coming,
Zombie land.
yeah, zombie land. But see, fentanyl didn't hit my res yet, but it's gonna hit.
Right.
And, it's just a matter of time. And I try to, not think about it too much, but when it's all, you know,
Right.
happening, like, geez, when that comes, I think that's gonna be the,
Right. But the Yankton Sioux reservations needs more people like you and
yeah,
him.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And y'all like pillars in the
yeah,
community.
yeah.
Um, well, I got you here 3 years of sobriety, and any wise words if anybody out there is struggling right now, their kids are struggling or they're thinking about changing their lives, what would you say to
I
them?
would just tell them to think hard about, about what your life is now, and remember that in the end, it's your if you got kids, they're the ones that are suffering more than you are.
Right.
I used to use triggers as an excuse. I don't, triggers don't bother me anymore.
Right.
Because you come to realize that that's just an excuse to get high.
Right.
I would, I would, here's triggers for me. I would wish for something bad to happen around me, so that
Right.
would be a trigger.
Right.
Or then if that didn't happen, then I would hope something happy would happen, a
Right.
birthday or somebody,
Right. You know how they say, oh, well, they was pushing my buttons.
yeah, yeah,
What I say, I got zippers now. You know what I mean? I don't have no buttons they can push.
yeah.
Well, I got my man Greg Z right here from the Yankton Sioux Reservation, Wagner, South Dakota. And we're here in Pierre, South Dakota for the Gathering of the Nation's first annual Recovery Warrior and Fashion Show. But it's going down. But I want to thank you, Greg,
Thank you.
for coming share some of your wisdom
Thank,
with us.
thank you.
Keep doing your thing,
Yeah,
brother. And I can't wait to maybe have an event and come out to the Yankton Sioux.
that'll be awesome.
Yep, but
Okay, look,
enjoy that
all right,
J
all right.
Dobo and that
Thank you.
seasoning,
Yeah, I'm
brother.
gonna try it out when I get home.
Congratulations,
All
my
right.
brother.
Thank you, man.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be interviewing more people throughout the day, and then we'll have some footage from the fashion show that's tonight from 6 to 9. But we have a whole bunch of speakers sharing their experience, strength, and hope and testimonies. But if you can't stay sober out there, catch an Uber. In the words of my great grand sponsor, Jack Height, if nobody told you yet, we love you, baby.